Welcome to Shardcast, the Brandon Sanderson podcast. A bunch of mega fans giving you the news, discussion, and of course, a whole lot of opinions about Brandon's works and the Cosmere. I'm Eric, and joining me is Grace.
Hi, I'm Gator Girl.
Also joining us is Marvin.
Hi, I'm Paleo.
And also, we have a special guest, Jason. How's it going?
It's going pretty well. Happy to be here, Eric.
And tell us about your YouTube channel.
Yeah, so I have a YouTube channel called Jasonian where I make researched and highly produced edited video essays at locations that kind of resemble places in the Cosmere. So I'd be very happy if y'all checked it out.
Yeah, there'll be a card in the upper right and in the description, and his stuff is very good and very well edited. And as you can tell, his camera setup is very good, and I'm jealous, and so I'm gonna eventually it's gonna look just like that. For me,
videographer by trade, it happens, you know.
Yeah, I do not know what I'm doing. just to be perfectly clear, I absolutely have no idea and totally self-taught. So, yeah, so looks great. Your stuff's great. Cool. So, everyone, we have a very exciting episode because now we are going to talk about what happened in late April at C2E2 when Brandon was in Chicago. And so we're going to have some words of Brandon, but before we do that, we are going to talk about the very exciting Stormlight 5 readings that happened there. And we are getting Shallan's first 2 chapters. I'm not sure if the second chapter is all of it. Maybe it's all of it. I don't know. Certainly some very spicy stuff. So you can skip to the WoBs if you don't want Stormlight 5 stuff, but I imagine most of you probably do want Stormlight 5 stuff. So we're going to talk about that today, and we'll see how much we talk. I don't know. So, I'm having a great time today, guys. Let's get to talk about Adonalsium. And I'm having a great time. Who's apparently in the spiritual realm. Okay.
Yeah.
That's just a thing that can happen, I guess.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I was shook when Collect's like, okay, in a prison in the spiritual realm. Probably what's weirder though is Pattern's not like weirded out by this. Like a potential trip to the spiritual realm. Pattern's just like, yeah, it's weird, but whatever.
Maybe it's just because Pattern's just so weird and wacky all the time. It's like, it's pretty weird. Like, I'm pretty weird though. But,
whatever. All
but it is like pretty weird.
Things.
Yeah.
That was that pretty, so.
Yeah, just apparently that's a thing you could do. That was not on my bingo card. I'm glad it wasn't just thrown in the ocean, so that's good. That's good.
It is the place. The characters didn't expect it either, right? So.
Yeah.
Well, it's a pretty good place to hide it if you don't want anybody to find it, because if as readers who are like really into the mechanics and everything don't figure out that you can just apparently put stuff in the spiritual realm, then a lot of people who might be interested in that might also not know in the Cosmere. So it's a good place to hide it.
There are like places in the spiritual realm, because I've always interpreted it as like this just jumble of all things at once, times, places, proper nouns, just everything is all at once. So is there like just you can build a prison there? How does that work?
Presumably it's the gemstone, right? Like chucked there, but yeah.
I'm going rhythmatist lore here. So
okay, rhythmatist lore here, because it is relevant. WoBs, it is relevant.
Yes, there are originally the concept of the rhythmatist was in the Cosmere, and there are creatures that Brandon has said in WoBs were originally intended to be like natives, inhabitants of the spiritual realm. So I have always been more of a proponent of the idea that like the spiritual realm, even in the current Cosmere, is more of a place with its own kind of ecosystem and creatures, even though it's really weird. So I was maybe surprised that Bondsmith was there, but I wasn't necessarily surprised that it was a possibility that you could put.
Why don't we read what Pattern says? He says, oh yeah, you think Shadesmar is odd? Yes. Black sky, little sun, pattern with arms and legs for perambulating. I love Pattern. Pattern's the best. The spiritual realm is stranger by orders of magnitude. It is a place where the future blends with the present. The past echoes like the striking of a clock. Time and distance stretch like numbers infinitely repeating. It is where gods live and even baffles some of them. It's like he does say it's weird, but I guess reading that description is like, okay, yeah, I did expect maybe a little more weird.
Yeah, just like, yeah, I'll go on a vacation there. If we're going, might as well.
What it sort of not reminds me of necessarily, but what it brings to mind for me is the way that in Interstellar, which I guess spoilers for that movie. If you haven't watched it in like 10 years, go watch it. It's really good. And so the way in the end, when he's in the black hole and everything, and like is interacting with his daughter through this, like there's this sort of grid sort of structure where you can access all points in time within that one room. So that's almost like that. It is a physical place. It just has really weird physics going on. So like the physical realm is normal physics. Then the Shadesmar is like, it's weird geometrically, I guess, and also the like lasting integrity itself is weird with the gravity. So you get some weirdness, and then spiritual realm is that turn to 11 or like orders of magnitude more weird, and you get stuff where you can instantaneously travel somewhere as well, I guess, which is interesting if it's a place, because how does it work? It's like, are there shortcuts there, I guess?
You're actually just in that one room in Interstellar, actually. Yeah. It's like that's the spiritual realm right there, actually.
A fourth dimensional liminal space.
Yes, exactly. Correct.
Why are we putting physical realm as the normal one? Maybe the spiritual realm is the normal one, and the physical realm is the weird one that's constrained by these time and space things that really shouldn't have that much effect on the world.
Yeah, I mean normal as in like matching the human experience of an Earth human, I guess.
You know, like if the gods are baffled, then seems pretty abnormal. But maybe it's perfectly normal for Adonalsium, you know? Like maybe just those mortal vessels. They're like, I don't know, man. Like it's weird. But Adonalsium, he'd be fine.
Maybe the spiritual realm is the enlightened place of what the world should be, and the fact that we view the physical realm as normal is merely a facet of our constrained minds.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, sure.
Yeah, let me just filter that through my cognitive aspect real quick.
I really need the Stormfather to build like a filter here. Yeah, exactly. to be in a solid vision here, because I don't get it.
I'm looking forward to seeing how that shakes out, because I've got just no idea.
Yeah, this. I think very recently we just put out our Stormlight 5 reactions, or not reactions. That's not out yet, but our Stormlight 5 predictions. And I don't remember what we said because I haven't edited it yet, as of recording now. But Spiritual Realm Bottomishram was not on the bingo card at all. That I know that was not there. I like how they're just like, oh yeah, Malishi hit it there. Like, what? How? What? I mean, I guess. Sure. Bondsmith. Sure. But like, what? I don't understand how that's possible. But I am excited because we're seeing some of that unmade stuff that was happening to Shallan at the beginning of Oathbringer when she was seeing Ray Shafir. Now she's seeing Bottomishram, who is a singer, I guess. That's interesting.
It's one interpretation.
It's one interpretation,
which I think like why it is an interpretation. Like we don't know what Bottomishram. Like we don't know if that's what Bottomishram looks like. But I think it makes sense if she's, as Kellogg says here, she's using fortune to do it. Is that she's accessing the spiritual realm, and so it sort of gets filtered through what people see Bottomishram as, and so it makes sense that it would be an interpretation that she can see, right? Because that is so like the idea of Bottomishram filtered down into whatever she does, and so she accesses one of it.
Yeah, but it could also be like this is one of her faces, and like she's powerful, and so can like adjust it.
Oh, it just reminds me of Odium, right? Because he can appear to people as a singer or his vessel form.
Yep. I think this does give some credence to the idea that Bondsmith was once a singer and is like some sort of like super souped up singer type thing. But it definitely could be something else that like she's just appearing like a singer, right? Like that is certainly possible. But that was my first read. Like, oh, I guess this unmade was like a female singer at some point and is hopefully cooler than that. I admit maybe I'm just concerned because she needs to be cooler than that. So I'm glad it's just one interpretation. So look, she hates humans. I just hope what I want and what I've been saying for so long is I just want Bondsmith to be released and just murder everyone. Like that's what I want. I don't want everyone living and if Bondsmith hates humans and stuff, let's get it done here. All right.
Pandora's sphere, pretty much. They accidentally release this terror upon the world.
I mean, I can't imagine she's thrilled about being in a gemstone for 2,000 years, right? Like that. No matter what her personality was like before, she'd probably be pretty upset, to say the least, right? I'm excited. I'm just so excited. I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say, guys. This is going to be the Bondsmith book, so of course it's going to be some good stuff.
So Bondsmith was imprisoned in a Heliodor, which is a stone associated with Bondsmith.
Yep.
Do we think there's like something there that it had to be a Heliodor?
I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case because like it's also like her connections to the singers was severed or like and also to the Spren, I guess, in some way, or like she's doing connection stuff and that's a very Bondsmith thing as well. So maybe in order for it to the prison to properly work, it has to be aligned with that in some way, and so only Heliodor would work as a prison, but it could also just be, I don't know, it's Milishi doing it and he's was a Bondsmith, so we need a Bondsmith gemstone. I don't know.
Yeah, because Reassembling wasn't actually in a gemstone prison, right? Because Reassembling got free from whatever prison it was, and was kind of like chilling on the siblings pillar, which is weird to think about, but okay, interesting. But like they did try and imprison Reassembling, right? That's what the epigraphs were saying, right? Oh, okay, so it's not mentioned in the epigraphs themselves about what's going on with Reassembling. That's kind of interesting, but I do believe when Shallan was fighting Reassembling, there was something about like they were trying to imprison Reassembling, but it's been a hot bit since Oathbringer Part 1 when we had that, But I wouldn't be surprised if they need to be in a Heliodor. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to put Reassembling in like a ruby or something for Lightweavers.
It would be Garnet.
Garnet? Oh yeah.
Garnet,
Rubies are Dustbringer. Sorry. Two red orders here.
I just happen to know that because I was looking to see and ruby was what was used to trap the thrill.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I wonder if another perfect gem would work.
Yeah.
That is a interesting question. Like how many of these perfect gems even are there even? Like what?
I feel like 10 is a safe guess.
No, that's probably
I
guess.
feel like I would assume one for each pull stone.
They manufactured it, right? Is what they said. They prepared a Heliodor for.
They prepared a Heliodor. Is that what they said?
But, I mean, Heliodor. Prepared a flawless Heliodor. So
prepared a flawless Heliodor. That is a very interesting phrasing, isn't that?
Yeah. It's
I feel like
flawless
there's also...
Heliodor, right? So not the flawless Heliodor.
Yeah.
I mean,
true.
That's true. But so when I think about prepare, I also think about like Navani and her talk about what it takes to capture a Spren, and it's more like there's more to it than just bring a gemstone close to the spren. Like you have to attract it, and then you have to do like the way Navani does it is by like creating a vacuum inside the gem, I believe, to suck the spren in. So I kind of I sort of read that and thought maybe prepare is sort of through a similar process of like getting the gemstone ready to where they can bring it close and activate something that would suck Adonalsium into it.
Yeah, but there's just going to be so many bondsmithy shenanigans, right? Like Dalinar had to know the thrill intimately to like lure it in, right? The thing with Heliodor is, I think that the thing we have to remember is that Adonalsium connected with basically every singer, except the listeners, I guess, on the entire planet. No idea how that's possible, right? Like, it seemed the Radiants of the time were surprised by this. And so I'm really wondering how, like, could she always do that? Like, is there some connection stuff that she can do? So it makes sense that a Heliodor, bondsmithy stuff, Mishram's connecting with everyone. There's something there that maybe works, but maybe another gemstone could work. It's interesting that it was a ruby for the thrill. Like, how important was the ruby? I feel like not very important for the thrill. Like, it was, I think they just needed a perfect gem, and Dalinar probably could have let them in. But maybe that was because Dalinar really knew the thrill really well, and maybe Malishi doesn't know Mishram that well, so they gotta like go through like, okay, you need the right gemstone because, right, something like that.
I mean, barring fortune shenanigans, it would have been very unlikely that the gemstone that could capture the thrill happened to be in Thaylen City, the King's Drop. So I don't think the type of gemstone matters too much, so much as knowing the thrill intimately, as you mentioned.
Like maybe for just capturing the unmade, it doesn't matter, but like, because that's also something Shallan thinks about, like if the imprisonment or what exactly caused the dead eyes and everything, if that is like maybe the Heliodor, because it's bondsmithy and everything, that had an extra effect of breaking all those connections, and thus it doesn't matter for the imprisonment itself, but it matters for the effects. Maybe could be the case. I could see that, but it just makes sense for me for it to be a Heliodor. I don't know, like it. Yeah, it matches. So I don't know.
I think any gem would have done that with Mishram connecting with everyone. Like I think it's more just the fact that the connections are severed with her being hidden in a gem.
That's also actually something I thought about while reading this. Like, does the fact that she is in the spiritual, like the prison, like the gemstone was put in the spiritual realm, does that change things as well about the effects of the imprisonment? Like, does it make things weirder somehow? Because then you have some, I don't know, like, would that affect things if you put something in the spiritual realm that doesn't belong there in a way? I don't know. Yeah.
That's an interesting point. Like how survivable is the spiritual realm? Like, if you're a thing, like maybe a perfect gem's better. Maybe that's a thing that could be like maybe the most stable. But who's to say? Like the spiritual realm could be whatever Brandon wants it to be, and be like, yeah, okay, sure, yeah, all right. It is interesting, the order of events for the Recreants, because Malishi would need to imprison Adonalsium. At some point, throw the prison into the spiritual realm. I imagine there's probably a little bit more than just chucking it there. Like, there's something going on.
It's funnier to imagine, like,
get it.
It's just like, sure.
Yeah.
All right, that's it.
Yep. But then Malishi has to break his bond, right? And then the Recreance needs to happen.
Yeah.
Because presumably Malishi needs his bondsmithy powers to do this. to chuck it in the spiritual realm, or like, yeah, I don't know, whatever he's doing in the spiritual realm. There are recreance things we need to know in this book that's are unclear currently. That I don't know. You can listen to our 3-hour-long Bondsmith from the Recreance podcast, which is somehow one of the most viewed videos on the channel. So thanks, guys, for dealing with all of our crap. It is actually the number 5 most viewed video on the channel, which is pretty good considering the first 2 are the Brandon interviews. So that makes sense. So anyway, I don't. Any other spiritual realm thoughts? Because it's like, I don't know.
Well, I have a prediction on what the spiritual realm is like.
Perfect. Let's do it.
So, at the end of Rhythm of War, Terravagian had that sort of allegory. I don't think it was like an actual of like standing on a beach and the horizon is like the infinite possibilities of the future. And I kind of think it'll be similar to that, where it's like you're at a location, but when you look around at like the places you can go, it's an ever-shifting possibility of different locations and times.
Like like you look around and you're literally seeing the past, present, and future, and you can just be like, whatever you want, or like any location like, as well.
Oh, okay, if you're staring directly at the ground, it seems normal. But the second you look up and try to go somewhere, it's like, well, am I walking to Nalthis, or am I going to 20 years in the future, or am I seeing something that happened 500 years ago? Now?
Why not both? It could be Nalthis 500 years ago. Maybe.
That's what I think it'll be like.
I think that's as good a theory as any, if like it's a place you can actually go to. I just never thought that this was an option.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, what? It's interesting.
It doesn't seem like a place we're supposed to be. Like pure atium burning gives you a vision of that, but to my like that's the most you can do. Like just get a glimpse.
You said the cursed words, physically, pure atium.
Sorry, atium retcon video is on my mind.
Yeah, it's the atium retcon is a fun, exciting thing, but yeah, like it should. It shouldn't be a place you should go. But on the other hand, if in book 1 they're like, there's 3 realms, it's like, well, we went to 2 of them. It kind of makes sense that Brandon's like, I wrote that there's 3 realms for a reason, guys. Like, we're obviously going to get there eventually. Like, okay.
And clearly it isn't easy to get there, right? So like otherwise they wouldn't have put the gems there.
Yeah, right, right.
Which makes me think about like how will the like speculating a little bit about how they will get there to do it. Like either they just get Delena to, I don't know, rip open perpendicularity and they can go through, maybe. But I was also thinking that maybe they they can somehow co-opt the oath gates somehow and like maybe hook into there and like make them like not do the location shifting, but instead like stop in between and let you out of the spiritual realm. Maybe they can do something there. Like, I don't know.
But you'd think that I would think that any perpendicularity could potentially get used to spiritual, right? Because it's
probably
a place where all 3 realms are. I don't know. It's weird, but that's like, I don't know why it wouldn't be the case if you knew what you were doing. I think maybe if you know what you're doing and where you're going is the difficult part.
I feel like you'd need some sort of connection-y magic to like deal with that, because it certainly doesn't seem when you're going through a perpendicularity that's like a usual place you can transition. So it seems like that should be challenging. So Dalinar seems like a pretty safe bet. Like it's like, we got one of those. Well, actually, we got 2 of those. It doesn't need to be Dalinar. It could be Divine.
True. Yeah,
we got 2 of those.
Maybe Dalinar is probably busy, like, figuring some other stuff out.
That's true. That is very true. Yes.
And it also makes sense for it to be Navani, right? Because she has experience with, like, Fabrials and everything and, like, imprisoning Spren. So
that's true.
Maybe she can help out in general. So
that's true.
We'll see.
Yeah. We will see. We're not that far away from getting Wind and Truth, everyone. Like, this I feel like it's not even been that long since Sunlit Man, and it's the end of May, June by the time you're getting this episode, and so it's just 6 months. And then we have it. And Stormlight first half's done. Which is really weird to think about, actually.
Yeah.
Cool. What else do we want to talk about? I'm sure, like the spiritual realm, we will shift back to blabbing about Bottomisham in the spiritual realm. But really, the spiritual realm is just like our podcast. We go on any tangent in any direction we want, right? But what should we talk about next?
Do you want to do Shallan, Two Bonds, Fortune stuff?
Yeah, let's talk about Shallan. I like how there was a wob that just like did this a few months ago. It's like, oh well, you'll see it later. It's like it's right here. Like, oh, okay, thanks. Very interesting. I'm very interested to get into Shallan weirdness because there's a lot to talk about there. So it's just fascinating that I think this is making it pretty clear that the Shardblade Shallan used to kill Tien is Testament. Seems pretty good to me. I'm not quite sure when she was able to summon Pattern as a Shardblade. It's a little unclear with Words of Radiance, but okay. I'm always wondering how much of this was planned or not. I'm never quite sure here. I really like that two Nahel bonds allow like weird spiritual shenanigans like these fortune things. I think that's very cool.
Mm-hmm. That is cool.
And like makes sense, I think, because there's like more spiritual like intermingling there. So I feel like that makes well enough sense.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit of like hybrid abilities, where if you have multiple magics, they kind of interact weirdly.
Oh yeah, the resonances.
Yeah. So just resonances between two not L bonds. Who is Shallan Sion bonded to? Do we know?
I mean, I think before reading this, is like it sounded like it would be Shallan's, but it like this is saying how like it's bad for the Sion to travel. I kind of want to talk about that as well. It's like, why can't the Sion travel?
Yeah.
Like, what? Why?
It sounds from the reading like maybe Collect got the Sion now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is what I think.
Because I don't think a Sion bond is, nearly as powerful as a Radiant Spren, but it's still a spiritual bond, and I was thinking that might interact a little bit, especially with two cryptic bonds in there.
Yeah, maybe it's for the best that Shallan doesn't get the Seon bond as well. Yes, actually she just gets that and just opens all of the spiritual realm. It's like, all right, there you go, easy.
We don't get much from the Sion, right? So maybe it's also just that they could travel, but they don't want, or like they shouldn't travel. They don't want to because it would be sort of like, I don't know, painful or whatever for them.
Yeah.
It's like staying in one place is better for them to recover because. So we don't know if the trip that Shallan took the Sion on, like if that was a painful experience for them, maybe, or for her, I guess. Yeah, we know she's a her, and so like they don't want to spare her from that now, and so that's why she can't travel. Yeah.
Or maybe it's just that Collect doesn't want to travel, and the Sion, as a faithful companion who is devoted to Collect, is like, yeah, sure, I'm too unwell to travel. I have to stay here with you, Collect, definitely.
But she got the Sion from Race, right? Like he gave her the box.
Yeah.
In Rhythm of War. So like I guess they could have severed the bond and gave the Sion a new one. But maybe like we don't know for one how the Ghostbloods get the Sions at all. Like maybe there's some central guy who just has all the Sion bonds.
That's Elantris too, actually. That's Elantris too. It's like I need to
buy
collect
a Sion.
Yeah.
Yes. And Kelsey was like, yes, I would, in fact, wish to do that. Yes.
Many ways it could turn out. So but I wouldn't be surprised. It's just not that they can't travel, but they shouldn't. Just it's
like that Sion shouldn't, or that this Sion shouldn't?
This Sion in particular. Like, because it was in that aluminum box as well for so long, and maybe that messes with stuff. And that don't like it.
Yeah, I was just thinking about like the abuse aspect of the Spren,
Mhm.
or not the Spren, the Scion. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They just call them Spren anyway. Like maybe there was like that aspect of abuse that the Scion's just like, you know what? I just want to hunker down and I don't want to be a part of any of this crap.
Yep.
But that is interesting about the aluminum box. But it just seemed like Brandon was going for a thing where like Scions could move pretty easily. So I was like, what?
Yeah.
Why couldn't you travel? What? So that's why I think it's maybe more the abuse aspect, maybe,
Yeah.
rather than a
That's what I
mechanical
think.
thing.
I meant more that part of the abuse was the aluminum box, right? That somehow affected them as well, and so
Okay. All right.
maybe because like aluminum is anti-magic, and so
Yeah.
blocks magic. So
Yeah, but like they could still
I
use the Scion through it.
yeah,
So
yeah, right.
That's,
So like
that's weird.
Why was it even aluminum, right? I don't know. Could just be any box.
Screw with Shallan, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It would make me wonder, or does make me wonder, like, if Shallan hadn't bonded another cryptic before, but instead, I don't know, a high spren or an honor spren or whatever, would the effect be different, right? And it probably would be somehow that, so the spren you are bonded to does affect the resonance, and then we get, I don't know, 10 to the 10 combinations. No, 10 squared, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Like there would probably be maybe some fortune shenanigans, but maybe how it like manifests, like you wouldn't see maybe people's possible selves. You'd see something else. I don't even know what that would look like. I don't think Brandon knows what that would look like, but I don't know, it'd probably be different or something. But some spiritual fortune shenanigans would still probably happen, but the form of that would interact differently. It is interesting though, because I do think it would be easier to just bond the same kind of spren. Because like imagine bonding an honor spren and a high spren. Good luck. You know, like
yeah. Just because how the personalities align, right?
Yeah,
so, like,
yeah,
it's
right.
unlikely that you would be in the position to even bond one of the two, just in general. And like doing a double bond might be more difficult even further because of interference and whatever. So
yeah.
And so we know that for in the Nahil bond, Brandon has always said like the spren has to choose as well. Do you think if for like a three-way bond, like if you bond a spren, do you need that spren's consent to get a third spren? I feel like probably yes, right? Like I feel like if Kaladin wanted to bond a second honor spren, he'd need Syl's consent for that.
I feel like it would be dependent on how far along on your first bond you are. Like if it's pretty fresh, then you might be able to pick up another spren without like it might negatively affect the existing bond as well. But like if you are like a fifth ideal radiant, I don't think you could do it without the spren's consent. So yeah, I think it might depend.
I guess I'm not surprised we're going this far in the weeds so quickly. It's like interesting. It's like what? So what is the spiritual realm? Wow, how does the Nahel bond work? But you know what? That's just what Shallan's dealing with. So you know that's what's happening. Like I don't know how much of an effect Testament has on pattern. You know, like it's not totally a three-way bond. It seems like it's more like you have the person and then there's like two like branches going off and like the human's the center of, you know, the poly spread triad thing that's going on here, right? And like Testament and pattern aren't like they aren't necessarily having a spiritual bond. But like it's possible, but like this chapter doesn't say anything about that.
But yeah, I mean, Testament is also kind of dead.
Yeah,
so
yeah, absolutely.
It's not like
we know Pattern was aware of Shallan having bonded a spren before, right? So and the Testament is now a dead eye, and but he probably knew that like just from like observing her and like it was known in the cryptic community that this girl killed her spren, basically.
Yeah, because that was like the presumably like the first cryptic to rebond after then. And they're like, well, that went terribly. Don't do that. Patton's like, actually, I'm intrigued. I like it, actually. It's interesting how it said strange things happen when a Nahal bond is imbricated. What?
Yes.
Okay, interesting. There were rules against it once, I believe. So I wonder if that's Spren enforced or Radiant enforced.
Honor enforced.
That's a great point. Yeah, maybe Honor's like, yeah, no, that's a bad idea. We had one guy do that, and like, nope, we're not doing that. Or Ishar, I guess. Ishar could maybe do some weird crap with that if he like instilled the oaths, right, on the surge binding itself, which is crazy. Connection's so crazy. Bondsmith's just whatever you want to happen is like, yeah, I mean, Bondsmith probably. I don't know. It's pretty good.
We don't need to talk about this at all, but it also raised the question of whether like an honor blade in a Spren would also cause some sort of resonance. I don't know, because then if Nail has double Skybreaker powers for some reason, but we definitely don't do that. Like that's way off into the
Let's actually talk about that in the Adium retcon. I think that's really what this episode needs. It's like, let's get our episode buffer going here. let's go there. No, let's not do that. Yeah, I guess I just love how Shallan's memories and stuff and bringing those visions of other realities like that's one of those like callbacks that's like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, okay, that kind of makes sense. I like that. I think that's a great thing to do for the end of this arc, right? Get those connections to earlier things.
Another interesting thing is that the bond with Testament isn't fully broken, which I thought was very interesting. It might be just because Shallan was the original Radiant and is still alive. Weird side effect is cryptic clothing is soft when they're dead eyes. That was weird. Instead of the glass.
Oh, that is weird.
Yeah.
It's like they're supposed to be glass and now it's just regular clothes. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, just like, okay, sounds good to me, I guess. But yeah, I am pretty sure it's just because Shallan was the original Radiant who broke that oath. And that's why the bond is still kind of intact.
Kalak does also kind of say, like, because she was so young, she didn't, like, fully understand the intent of what she was doing, it sounded like. And maybe that was also part of it.
Sure.
But I feel like that also gets into, like, how does she have the intent to form a bond? If, like, I don't know. So weird.
It's all very loosey-goosey, but I don't know if, say, after Biotomishram's imprisoned, you're one of the Radiants break in your oath with your Spren, as a Spren wanted to, right? But they didn't know that it'd be super bad. If you break your oath and just keep the blade, can you dismiss that blade? You know, like how much of that bond is still there? Because at least with the vision Dalinar saw, they just chucked the shard blade and the plate away, bye. And so then that kind of finishes it. Like it makes sense to me that there's at least some connection still, even when you break the oath. So I'm not quite sure how young, like how much Shallan being young and not having the intent to break oaths matters, because at the end of the day, the Testament is dead-eyed, but maybe just like not proximity to Shallan, but that maintaining that connection with Shallan kind of helps Testament a little bit, like how Adolin and Maya, it's like, all right, we're really treating this as a Spren. Help Maya, maybe. It's so hard to say. It's like which truth is said to Testament, which one's said to Pattern? Who's to say? I think it's plausible that a Radiant in that situation that just didn't toss the blade away could dismiss it like a regular shard blade and things. Like it could go either way, but
That sounds right to me, because Shallan didn't, like she said, she pretended to wait 10 heartbeats with her shard blade. So that bond's still there.
Well, okay. That with the 10 heartbeats makes it interesting, though, right? Because I feel like if Testament's dead-eyed, it should take 10 heartbeats, right? Surely.
But Seth also took 10 heartbeats when he didn't need to, because he thought he had to.
Yeah, but like, yeah, it's so hard to say. There,
I think that the breaking of the bonds was unclean. It's like, okay, that they are still a radiant Spren pair in a way, just Spren happens to be a dead eye, right? So like the in a way that like how they say that the intent she couldn't really form didn't really form the intent. So it's like she wasn't really she didn't think of the bond as being a radiant Spren. So like being that I don't want to say Knight's Radiant because it doesn't matter really, like if it's within the order structure. But that bond, she didn't really acknowledge that as like she didn't want to break the bond itself, but rather just didn't want to use Testament as a weapon anymore, maybe. So like just because she killed her mother with Testament, so like she didn't want to have anything to do with that, and so that's what that was traumatic to Testament, and that's why she's a Deadeye. But the bond itself is still mostly there, or like not mostly, but somewhat there. So that's why she can also summon her without the 10 heartbeats and everything.
God, it just makes every time it makes me want to read Words of Radiance again. And like I've gone through Words of Radiance. Like I know we've gone through to try and figure out like, okay, this Shardblade summoning is this. This Shardblade summoning is this. And maybe this one's fatter, but this one's Testament. I just don't know if it's necessary that Shallan needed to wait 10 heartbeats or not. Like part of me wants to say that yes, it does take 10 heartbeats to summon Testament in particular. But in Words of Radiance, when Shallan's saying, but for her, it didn't need to be 10 heartbeats, is because she's remembering when she was a Radiant and could summon Testament instantly to kill her mom, right?
Okay, but
but then she's also getting patterned, and so it's like, okay, great, I got it.
But Adonalsium summons Maya in 7 at the end of Oathbringer. And
Yeah,
we know she's a Deadeye, and
Sure.
so I feel like there's a question of will Adonalsium be able to summon Maya instantly now once they go back to the physical realm, and maybe because I feel like if Adonalsium is able to summon Maya instantly now, I feel like then there's no reason why Shallan couldn't summon Testament instantly, right?
Yeah, okay, that's
feel
a
like-
great point for sure.
But I feel like there's also like dependent on what exactly is happening to Maya, right? Like, is she as much like she seems like less of a Deadeye now, but is the ground state of being a Deadeye still completely there? And it's just that a bond, like the bond between her and Adolin got so much stronger that she's at a point now where like any Deadeye would be functional with that level of bond. I have a hard time putting into words what I'm thinking, but like maybe the bond between Testament and Shah never deteriorated to that point where it's like just somebody holding a shard blade. So that's why limitations don't apply. But she's still as much that much of a Deadeye, right? Like that doesn't change too much about her inner mental state. I don't know. Like for Testament, I mean.
Who's more dead, Maya in Rhythm of War
right.
or Testament in Words of Radiance?
Exactly.
That's the question.
Schrodinger's Spren.
Who's more dead or more alive?
I mean,
I guess I think Testament is more dead. Because I think Testament, I mean, I guess Shallan does say Testament wasn't very talkative the same way, even when alive. So I guess it is really hard to tell. But I think Maya
Testament
seems like she's doing better, is what I'm saying.
Testament is as alive as Maya. She just doesn't want to talk to people, so she pretends to be more dead still.
I'm just looking back in Words of Radiance when Shallan killed Tien. It's like, was that instantaneous? I don't remember.
I think maybe that anytime Shallan murders someone, it's Testament, and anytime she doesn't murder someone, it's Pattern. I feel that feels right to me. I have no proof, but that feels right.
Jeez. I don't know, guys. Shallan Shallan is like a cryptic. You just look further, and there's just more insanity the closer you look at it. And maybe it's best to just be like, you know what? I guess that's just how it is now. Why even worry about it? But
Testament helped her stand against the darkness of her family before her mom even tried to kill her.
Well, we don't need to get into the very popular Chana Devar theories, of course. But we've done episodes on that, so we'll.
How many can we cram into one episode? ATM Redcon. Shallan's mother's.
Stormfather or Stormfaker? Can we fit that in there? What else could we do?
Get your Shardcast bingo cards out now, everybody.
Yes. Too bad we can't put Kushikesh on there. We already did that episode.
Yeah.
But what else do we want to talk about? I really liked the Shallan wit conversation. That was cute. Just like talking about like heroism and stuff. That was nice.
I did find the line interesting where she says that everybody that mentored her, she ended up killing. And, well, Hoid did to some extent mentor her as well. I don't expect there to be anything, but that would be fun if she somehow killed Hoid and everybody blames Shallan in the end. You destroyed the entire Cosmere, right? I don't know.
I mean, how important could Hoid be? How important could Hoid be? It'd probably be fine.
But it was an interesting line from her.
It's really fun being in Shallan's head post Rhythm of War. Like Bale's gone. Yep. Like I really enjoyed being in her head here and just kind of getting a little more of that like falling action after Rhythm of War, because we really didn't get a lot of that. So it is really fun to get a Stormlight book without a time jump between it, because Way of Kings to Words of Radiance and Words of Radiance to Oathbringer was really fun in that way, whereas we didn't really get that for Rhythm of War. So we get a little more of that feel there, and I like it. What else do we got? We got the Windrunners are here to take them back to Urithiru. I think we wondered how they would get back to be relevant into, the actual book. And I guess I just didn't think Windrunner was the answer to that. For some reason I thought that wasn't an option, but I think it's just that they decided not to use Windrunners because they thought that would be bad to go to Lasting Integrity with Windrunners.
Yeah, poor optics.
Yeah. They just intentionally chose to not do that. Because obviously you can still use Surges in Shadesmar. That's fine.
I think they also just maybe said they couldn't spare them or something at that point.
Yeah, maybe that too. Yeah. I'd have to look, but I feel like it was something about maybe coming in there with Windrunners is they might not like that. But yeah, for whatever reason, this just literally didn't occur to me. They're just just have Windrunners. Just got them. Oh, okay, all right, cool. And speaking of Windrunners, they got 12 new honor spren that won't be helpful in this book, it sounds like. So it's like, good job, guys. So that's interesting. I guess I thought that would matter more in this book, but in some sense, I guess it couldn't have if it's 10 days, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And they got not very many. I mean, some, but not many.
That is nice.
Yes. Surely this is going to matter eventually. Because we had this long Shadesmar side quest in Rhythm of War. It's interesting that Nodum wants to help but doesn't want to be a Radiant Bond. So I wonder what he's going to be doing. That's very interesting. And honestly, makes a lot of sense. That they wouldn't want to necessarily do that. But I'm glad Nodum's on our side. Nodum's awesome. I love Nodum.
My true thoughts when reading that, first I was thinking maybe Nodum would want to bond a singer, because he seemed to not want to bond a human. But I don't know if maybe he's not aware of that possibility or doesn't want any bond at all. And then I was like, what if they get Honor Spren army fighting the Singers in Shadesmar.
Yeah, I'm thinking like because the line there about they have this mighty navy and everything that they don't use anymore, and I feel like maybe that's sitting at note for maybe taking up that maybe he will become an admiral or whatever in their navy and
Fight the
be
fused in
responsible.
Shadesmar.
Yeah,
Finally
really-
break
really
the blockade at the Horneater Peaks.
yeah, maybe.
That'd be cool.
So also regarding the not that many Spren signing up for becoming Radiant Spren, I think that also just makes sense with like the trial has been really recent for them as
Yeah,
well,
it was like yesterday.
literally a few days ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like it makes sense that like not a whole bunch of people or Spren would be wooed over to the human side again, like within a day or two, right? So it takes some time for them to maybe also see like this first batch of Spren succeeding with the bond, and they show that okay, the humans can maybe be trusted more, and then we'll after the time jump to book 6, we'll have 1,000 Windrunners or something like that because all the Spren signed up, doing their part.
That is a good point because it's not like, oh, you're acquitted, everyone loves you now. It's like, well,
this one guy might be okay, but who knows about the others?
Yeah, but that does sound like we could get more Windrunners in book 6 and stuff.
All right.
With whatever new Windrunner characters Brandon wants,
Whoever needs a cameo.
Wouldn't it be really cool though if instead of like to get your Radiance, you send Honor Spren to the physical realm, they start like sending the Windrunner recruits into Shadesmar to like be under the command of an Honor Spren navy and to work on the boats, and then like once an Honor Spren who's like in command finds a potential Radiant, they go back to the physical realm together.
That's badass.
Or actually, I don't even know. I wonder if you could even like form a bond in the Cosmere realm.
No, but you could like choose the person you want to bond to, right?
Yeah. I just think that's a very fun, like almost like reversal of the power dynamic of like, yeah, just send the potential Radiants into Shadesmar to work under the command of the Honor Spren Navy for a few years to see if they get a bond.
Mm-hmm.
You know who that reminds me of? Sixil and Orcs in Sun at Man, right? There where Orcs talks about like Sixil being his sort of squire and everything at first.
That's a good point.
So like
it's a good point.
Maybe that dynamic does open up in the like in the second half of the books, and that just becomes normal. That the Spren also gets to like choose. Well, they get to choose anyway, right? But that they get more of an equal say, I guess, in how they get. Or I guess the human have more of a say in whether they get chosen or not.
Ox gets to summon Sigzil as a blade in the cognitive realm. That's what we need. Good. So I think that about wraps up these Shallan chapters. Definitely check out the link in the description for those, and get excited because Wind and Truth is coming soon, and I imagine maybe like this summer we're gonna start getting preview chapters pretty soon. So that's gonna be exciting there. So that'll be fun. I don't know if we're gonna do our like Winden previews or whatever. Like
right, yeah.
That might be challenging to do the preview show again, but we shall see. But in the meantime, let's start talking about some words of Brandon. So let's head on over into WoB mode here. Khriss, why don't you start us off with this Renarin one? Oh, but actually, before we start, I just want to mention there are some of these that talk about some Emberdark stuff. So if you really don't want Emberdark stuff, maybe skip this. But it's pretty vague. But we might bab a little bit about the previous chapters, I guess. Maybe, I don't know.
For this first question, this person asked, "When are we getting more Renarin?" Brandon said, "You will get the most Renarin you've ever gotten so far in Stormlight 5. Now, let me warn you, he's not a main character yet. He won't get as much as you will want until, like, book 6 through 10. But for now, you're going to get more than you've ever gotten."
Perfect. Alex is extremely excited, I'm sure.
I almost wonder if with his, like, future sight stuff, he could potentially be, like, navigator in the spiritual realm, if he has like some extra ability to do that. I don't know. That could be cool.
Well,
That would be nice.
Well, what was it, right? What did he say with?
Oh, the character arc structure.
Yeah, the character arc
structure.
structures. Yeah, good. Yeah, I don't even need to say the things because he said who the arcs were in the books, right?
Yes, like the structure of book 5, like who, like which groups of characters he probably in some. Did he do a Reddit post for this one?
He hasn't done it was one of those Stormlight updates. He's been very bad at those this time. But like I think he did like just 2 of them.
Section 2, this will be Shallan, Dalinar with some Navani and Renarin.
Okay. That's interesting. So section 2, Shallan Dalinar with some Navani and Renarin. Okay. Well, that seems like a pretty reasonable theory then. Like just straight up, right?
Yep.
And with what you were saying earlier about like Dalinar, right? Okay, there you go. So,
yep.
All right, cool. We're fitting this together. Yeah. So the arcs that he said in his Stormlight 5 update, which, goodness, it was last March 2023. Nice. Section 1 was Kaladin Zeth and Zeth flashbacks. Section 2
Makes sense.
Yeah. Was the Shallan Dalinar with Navani Renarin. And then there's some to do afterwards, which are Adolin, Yasna, Venli. So
presumably Adolin's not going on the spiritual realm, maybe journey thing. I don't know. But it's hard to say.
It's hard to say.
I mean, it could just all be from Shallan's point of view, I suppose, but that doesn't seem super likely to me.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, we really haven't gotten a Stormlight 5 update. He's just been too busy, I guess, just working on things. Mm-hmm. So maybe he just feels like weekly updates are just like, this is sufficient kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, yeah.
But which is unfortunate because I really like the Stormlight updates because they go into immense detail and have slight spoilers, which I like. Cool. Well, I'm pretty excited to see some more Renarin stuff. And I know he did say Rhythm of Wartime. He was bullied into saying Renarin and Rlain stuff. And like he did say that was also a book 5 thing somehow. Like, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess the 10 days they just spent them locked up in a room.
But Renarin's with the Shallan plot, though.
Right. Yeah, well, Rlain can go along, right?
Okay. Yeah, sure. Sure. Love it. I like
that would make sense if they think that Adonalsium is a singer, right? Like having an envoy of both humans and singers on the same side.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, wasn't he called like Bridger of Minds or something? Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Okay.
Unified coalition. That's the way you got to do it.
And also, he has an enlightened spren as well, right? So, or like the Nessun bond there. So that shows, okay, we can work with the unmade as well. Like, there's potential there.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Cool. I like that.
So this person asked, would the incredible ability Bondsmith have to reassemble things? Would they theoretically be able to reassemble Adonalsium himself out of the shards if they were detached from their hosts? Brandon answered, this is kind of a chicken and egg question. Would they be able to reassemble Adonalsium? Can you use Adonalsium's own power to reassemble Adonalsium? Can someone externally do it? I'm going to give you a rough on that right now, but I'm going to warn you, this idea of using something to reassemble itself is more tricky than you might assume, all right?
Well, I guess Adonalsium's screwed, I guess, but I mean, I guess you need...
use the Aether of reassembling.
Yeah. You use the Aethers with the Dawn Shards, nailed it. Then you put
some water on all the shards, and then boom.
Yeah, easy. Easy. That's what you need. You need to have a Luhel bond with a shard. What could go wrong? Yeah, that's just interesting because I feel like there's a bit of like the unite them type thing that like I feel like there's some powers where you could maybe do that, but so I'm not quite sure where the problem exactly would arise. You know,
I mean, it also raises the question, like, are you able to disassemble Adonalsium without any sort of external power? Like
Yeah.
the shattering, would you have been able to do it with just Adonalsium's own systems? Which then raises the question, like, dawn shards, how much of Adonalsium are they? Like stuff like
Well,
that. Like,
the dawn shards are weird though. But
Yeah,
even
right.
even if you had the dawn shards, wouldn't you need some power source to like use them?
Yeah.
Right? Like
Mhm.
just having the dawn shards itself is not sufficient, right?
Yep.
Cool. Done with that one?
Yeah,
Yeah, all
I
right.
think so. Yeah.
All
That's
right.
a great
Jake,
question, but yeah, we can't, like, we don't know any external power right now, right? Or like,
other than
no,
Aethers.
we
Other than
don't know
Aethers.
one that doesn't claim only, like, that we only know itself claiming to be external, right?
Yeah.
Because they have to
Right.
say they are, but
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it is hard to just think about like what is external to Adonalsium when I don't necessarily believe the Aether's claims there, right? Like
Exactly,
I just don't
yeah.
believe that.
To me, this makes sense from the sense of like, if you're trying to rebuild Adonalsium with its own power, I feel like you're gonna reach a point where like you're gonna need to use like you're never going to be able to use the piece of the power that you're using to reassemble it in like put it back. If that makes it like.
So it's like that last bit,
I don't know.
the bit you're
like you're always
using.
going to have that bit separate, whereas you might need to use the bit in the recreation. So that kind of makes sense to me, whereas I feel like it's easier to just like steal a little bit of Adonalsium's power to break the rest of it.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, if you get 95% of the way there, that's probably better. Like, what could possibly go wrong with that, maybe? It's probably fine. Put 15 shards, you don't need all 16 of them. You probably do. Ooh, Jason, this next one.
Okay.
This is a spicy one.
Okay. Questioner. In anticipation of the Mistborn Ghostbloods era that you're writing, you've mentioned that you also want to write a Space Age series. Obviously, after that, you mentioned at one point briefly entertaining the idea of doing a Cyberpunk series in between that. And I just want to ask, what is the status of that? Brandon says, I'm pretty much in my head committed to doing that. That we're going to have all 5 eras now. So that gives us epic fantasy, steampunk, modern day urban fantasy, cyberpunk, and space opera. So that is currently the plan. Now, here's the thing. I don't want to promise too many sequels because there's only so much writing time.
Yeah, Brandon, I don't know if you can say I'm committed to doing that, but also, hey, I promised too many sequels. So, but there's been some talk saying this, like, oh, Brandon's talked about this for a while, but like this is the most committed he's been to Cyberpunk era for sure. So this is Cyberpunk era confirmed. I mean, I guess it's fine because Brandon can just chug out whatever random other books he wants to, like the Secret Projects, and it's probably fine. I don't know.
Just way to go. You know, we had an entire era that you hadn't planned initially with Era 2, and I guess, you know, let's shove one more in there just for good measure. That'll be cool, though. Cyberpunk is a cool aesthetic.
Because this way he could get 16 Mistborn books if he has 3 Cyberpunk. Right? Because he's got the 4 in Era 2, so he gets exactly 16. Watch him like split one, though, you know, or like need to do 2. But like 17 is still good, but like 16 would be better. I will say Cyberpunk Mistborn, I think we've talked about it a bit on the show. I'm getting more and more excited about because there's definitely this idea. I think it was on our Hemalurgy episode where if you can make a spike that you didn't have to kill anyone to make it, that can just code whatever power, that's like such a cyberpunk aesthetic of like, instead of like cybernetic implants, you're getting like these spikes and things. And so you have like the rich and powerful getting like, oh yeah, I have these spikes, and the commoners are just like, you know, have a lot less power and things. I don't know. I think that could be really cool.
Having to sell a tiny little piece of, I mean, it's a little bit Nelthus actually, and that's not really cyberpunk, but the idea of like selling a bit of your soul to create a spike to make ends meet does feel very cyberpunk.
That also feels very cyberpunk.
Yeah.
And it also sort of gives the vibe that, like, let's say Cold War era in the modern era goes poorly and one of the sides has clearly won. That also is very cyberpunk, because then you'll have the cyberpunk underground, right?
Yeah, I can't see any problems with this at all. I mean, like, selling part of your soul, literally, you know, wealth inequality. What is this, right?
Yeah, like it's, and it would have such good echoes with like Era 1, you know, like now you have a new set of nobility and things, and we thought we got under that, but now it's like so much worse with this technology and things. Like, I don't know. I feel like there's stories to tell, and that's probably why Brandon's getting excited about it. But really, the body modification. Like, imagine you could make a spike to, like, that preservation warping does all sorts of weird crap, like making Kolos and Khandra and things. And so you could have even crazier body modification with spikes, maybe, that they're experimenting. And maybe like, hey, you can make ends meet if you join our crazy hemalurgy experiment group. And like, maybe you won't die. It's like, it's very cyberpunk. So I don't know. I kind of get more excited, but I know some other people on the show are like, but there's other stories. Like, do we need more Scadrial stories?
Yeah.
And like, I think that's a fair point as well. But
it is also interesting. But it goes to show how like little Brandon still has planned out for like concrete stuff he has planned out for the future of the Cosmere. Like, he can easily fit in a Cyberpunk era, apparently, or not easily necessarily,
Easily.
but he can do it. Now, I don't mean time-wise, but just like he can fit in stories there and make it make sense for it to like have an impact as well. Probably like they better have some impact on the overarching Cosmere. So it's interesting that he can just do that somehow, and just that like because how would what happens in a Cyberpunk era affect the 5th era, right? This future space age one.
I was like thinking about this earlier today when prepping. Sometimes we do that a little bit. So the epic fantasy and the modern fantasy and the space opera, those were always, that's the original plan.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think Cyberpunk will not be as long of books as Era 3, because I think he said the modern day Era 3 are going to be as long as Mistborn Era 1, which I think will be great. Yeah. So I think Cyberpunk will be more length of Era 2 stuff. So that, I was just thinking about, like, when is he going to write these? Because he kind of had, like, all right, we're going to do Era 3, also Elantra sequels, maybe, I guess. That's going to be our next stuff. Then we'll do Stormlight back half. Then we'll do Dragonsteel. Then we'll do Space Age, Mistborn, right? Seems like Cyberpunk might be a bit like what he does on off Stormlight years in back half, maybe, just like Era 2. And it might be a more spread out era, but it'll just be like, yeah, these are the shorter ones. This was the unplanned one, but we'll explore some cool Mistborn stories and things. And I could see that working pretty well, because it would be pretty bad if Era 2 didn't exist and we last saw Hero of Ages in 2008, right? And what we're getting Era 3 in 2028 or something like that. Like 20-year gap for those. Seeing some Scadrial as we go along, that these are the important places. That does make sense to me. Like there's some benefit to that. And maybe he can just do like, yeah, I'm doing some kooky cyberpunk thing with some band of God, it's so Mistborny too, because you can have the underground that with like all the people with wacky abilities. It's just like it's so Mistborn as well. Yeah. So I feel like that's exactly what he's going to do, and be like, all right, I'm going to explore these kooky powers, and Space Age is going to be much more broader Cosmere scope, right?
Yeah, that'll be interesting, because at the end of Era 2, they started having rocket technology, like not quite enough to get into space. But Cyberpunk, they're going to be developing that in the background. That'll be quite the background plot.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point, because like, where's the space tech going? Because if The modern era's 1980s, like you could make satellites and stuff. Like satellites easily probably exist in that era. So, like, when does interstellar travel? When do they get FTL? I guess is the big question, right?
Yeah. I don't know. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Star Trek because I know Brandon he likes Star Trek.
Yeah.
Like before World War III in Star Trek, when they start venturing out, it's kind of the cyberpunk era where things are not great. Kind of what I imagine.
They go out and, well, I don't know if we'll get to post-scarcity things like Star Trek, where it's like, yeah, we went out and now we're in this great utopia of like everything's great and we have infinite food and technology.
You
and
know,
things.
with gold feruchemists, you've got unlimited organs to transplant, so you're set. You need a kidney transplant. Just
very cyberpunk. Very, very, very cyberpunk. It's like, oh, you're a gold feruchemist? All right, we just put a spike in you and now you're a compounder. So like you'll be fine. You'll be fine. We'll pay you so much, but like, come on, let's get these kidneys rolling here, literally. Like, we need a lot of them. It's like, and you know what? They can soul cast blood, right? And so, like, the organ transplanty stuff, I'm sure some spiritual mumbo jumbo can fix those problems, probably, because Brandon doesn't know how complicated that is.
Yeah, and then when Elantrian shows up and just puts everybody out of business with Aondor, but that's
you know, that's how the Cyberpunk era ends, actually. The Elantrian Reassembling personally shows up to fix the Scadrial problems. Yeah, I guess that's one of those things. It's like, all right, well, what's Cell doing? What's Nelthus doing? What are these other places doing? Like, Nightblood, please. When?
And then maybe that even is like, I wonder how much Scadrial focus there will be in a cyberpunk era. So, like, do we maybe see some off-world stuff as well?
Oh,
like,
yeah, that's a good point.
That we are headed for a more interconnected Cosmere, and I feel like it would make sense for it to be entirely taking place on Scadrial, because unless they for some reason are like have not figured out interplanetary travel via the cognitive realm at that point, which they basically already have, right? So it would be weird for them. The further we go along on the timeline, the less it would make sense for it to be only on one world, and unless it's one of those stories like the secret projects where you do only visit one planet that we haven't seen before, right? There it makes sense for it to be localized and everything.
Yeah, like obviously Era 3 is Ghost Bloods. So like obviously there's going to be secrets about other places where, you know, we're actually going to get a character who's actually in the Ghost Bloods as a POV character. Finally. But like it does make me wonder, like, are they gonna go to other places in Era 3? Because I feel like there is still a lot of Scadrial stuff, like especially with the Southerners, like there is stuff to do. But Cyberpunk era, you can easily have, you don't even need just Scadrian magics. It's just like, oh yeah, it's the crazy kooky underground of whatever random guys. Presumably Cyberpunk would start to get like very interconnected, like even Era 2 is. So I just wonder how much Era 3 is going to be. And
I guess this is an Ember Dark sort of spoiler already a little bit. That with the hints at the conflict between a sort of Renarin and the Scattering group, we do need setup for that, right? Like we can't just start Space Age and the conflict is there. So we need, I guess, like half of Stormlight might make some of the setup happen, but also Cyberpunk era, I feel like if we have a lot of interconnections going on already and we are past this stage where we explained everything on Scadrial, because like you said, Southerners are like still a big mystery to us, it would make sense for us to get some insight there and see the Scadrian side, I guess, of why they end up having a conflict. Maybe.
I don't know. This is kind of selling me that the Cyberpunk era is going to be sweet because but like all you have to say is sweet more interstellar conflict, and like what if one of the people in the underground is a Radiant and they're helping fight against the greater machine, and just oh man, that sounds awesome. Sounds great. All right, this next one, you've said before that a certain main Stormlight character's younger brother would have been a Lightweaver. what would his truths have been? So this is referring to Tien. But he got murdered. Brandon.
Well, I will
Oh, yeah?
just finish. And
Okay.
then finish
Okay.
Yeah.
Brandon, that's a very deep Raffo. I can give you the first one, though. He was going to have to acknowledge that he was not the person he was trying to be, but he could be someone better. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It could be like Elhokar, right?
Yeah, I have heard some people argue that since it was not specified who his younger brother, the main character being referred to here could be Yasna, and this could be Elhokar instead of Tien.
Yeah. Okay.
I find it very unlikely because I don't think Brandon would have thought of Yasna in that moment. Like
As the
'cause
Stormlight main
some-
character.
Yeah. For one, that, and also like in the context of younger brother, like I don't think of Elhokar as Yasna's younger brother because they don't
That
have
is super weird to think about, honestly.
a brother-sister relationship at all. So
That's a
yeah.
great Who's That Cosmere character clue, though. It's like, it's a Stormlight main character, younger brother. It's like, Tien. But like, Elhokar, you don't get.
And I think that's also kind of comes from people being like, this feels very like something Elhokar would say as a truth. And
It
people
is
are like,
true.
True. Yeah.
What person was Tien trying to be that he wasn't actually?
Well, like, there's this aspect of like Tien's trying to be like a brighter person to like help Kaladin, and I feel like there could be some aspect of, Tien isn't that, right?
Like Tien also secretly had depression and was
Yeah,
hiding
maybe.
it for
Yeah.
Kaladin's sake.
I don't know why this is a very deep Raffo. Like, when the hell's this gonna come up? Like, I don't. This feels exactly like Bloody Tan Lutha and the Night Street Gang. Of like, what? Why are these Raffos? Why can't you just tell us? But like, I guess there's a whole back half. So,
And maybe he literally just means it in the context of like because Raffo can also mean, it's not in the text, but like you can get hints at what like Tien was like. If it's Tien, again, like that, it's Raffo in the sense, make up your own mind about it and see that what Tien might have become, and make up your own headcanon, because Brandon is not going to explore it.
I guess.
I don't feel like this is the case, but it could be a Raffo for another vision with Tien, Kaladin.
Yeah.
Having that.
Yeah. I mean, probably is, right? Like, let's be honest, it probably is. That seems like the most likely situation.
This questioner asked, was Khriss one of Hoid's apprentices? And Brandon said, he does not count her in his short list of apprentices. You will find a lot of people he deeply influenced that he doesn't count. And Khriss and he definitely have some history.
Interesting. I mean, makes sense. They've like been around for a really long time. Like, surely they have talked, right? Like, there's no way they haven't.
They might not be on the best terms anymore, but
Possibly.
a lot of his apprentices aren't on good terms with Hoid. So that doesn't really play into it, does it? Huh?
Sixel and Hoid are doing great. I don't know what you're talking about. Nothing bad happened at all between them.
No, not at all. What am I talking about?
So when Brandon says history here, do we think that there could be a romantic history there?
Then, of course, that's where,
I mean, he's into Yasna. A lot of people have made comparisons between Khriss and Yasna. Maybe he has a type.
I mean, God, it's just so funny because I think a lot of people are like, I mean, Khriss Yasna. That'd be great, right?
Yeah.
And wouldn't it be funny if like they're both,
And they bond over their experience with Hoid, right? So that's how they.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. I don't know if that's the case, but I feel like maybe they blabbed on Taldane or something.
Oh,
Probably.
Yeah. And like Hoid has almost certainly been to Silverlight, right? So
yeah.
That it just
Wonder how much of a popular guy he is on Silverlight. Like, is he Silverlight's most wanted, or?
Because like we have a lot of sort of negative reactions to Hoid from like many people that have met him, like almost exclusively negative opinions actually.
I can't imagine why.
So, yeah, but it would be interesting to see like that Khriss actually likes him and they're like on good terms. Like that would also be an interesting thing to like, okay, they don't work together necessarily because they just like they don't want to, but they respect each other maybe. Who knows? So,
Now, this does make me want to see a list of people who think they're Hoid's apprentice and then a list of people who are actually Hoid's apprentice.
Yeah. And then the actual apprentices are like, no, trust me, you'd definitely know if you were Hoid's apprentice.
But you have this whole torment deal and everything.
Yeah. So we got two apprentices. We got Sigzil and we have Starling now with Emberdark. But we don't have the third one. So maybe it'll be a Shodell and we'll get the trifecta.
That would be cool.
The Yolan trifecta.
It would be.
All right. Marvin. Let's do
Yes.
this one. This one's a good one.
Okay, so somebody asked, I had a question about Odium's intent for going after Ambition. Obviously, with Devotion and Dominion teaming up, he didn't want a twosome over there. Are we ever gonna learn more about the background on Threnody? Because Khriss implies that there was always investiture there before the clash. So I'm looking for a little bit of information about the evil before the Admiral's background story. And Brandon answered, before the clash, the evil was not the evil. It is the clash that warped it. And Secret Project 5 has a splintered piece of Ambition as a plot point. Some of these books, all the stuff I said about not having to know multiple magic systems, that goes out the window for things like Secret Project 5. Those are books that are about that. You will find out some more there. It's going to take me a long time to get to what actually happened with Ambition, why, and things like that. Know that Odium was not expecting it to be as hard as it was, and ended up severely wounded in that clash.
There was a WoB I didn't grab that was talking about how Brandon's like, well, I mean, generally when you read a book, you shouldn't need to know like other magic systems for the core thing. And then he's like, yeah, this book's about that though. So, I like having a mix of that. I think that's appropriate. Yeah. What a WoB!
And I guess
whoa! Yeah, holy cow!
Where do you begin?
Yeah, where do you want to begin?
Well, I think about Threnody a lot, probably more than I should, because I've researched spiritual damage and cognitive shadows, and guess what Threnody has? Both of those things. Evil not being the evil at the start, that checks out to me. That makes perfect sense. I just feel like it was part of the planet and then got messed up. Splinter of Ambition and Emberdark. Do we think that is like Naj or something else? How are we feeling about that?
I guess he's a shade. Sure. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. The way he says splintered piece of ambition, it implies to me that it might be like a bigger chunk almost. Like a shade is a pretty small, and how much of ambition is in there and how much is just like that person's investiture converted or whatever to being a shade. I feel like it has to be something bigger in a way where like, but I have no idea what it might be, right?
Yeah, it's really hard to say.
And also about the evil, like the evil was not the evil, but we don't even know what the evil is, right? Like,
it was called the good before, actually.
I wonder if the evil is maybe like a mingling of odium and ambition, and that's why it's so terrible. Ooh. It's like divine hatred combined with ambition.
Oh,
yeah, that does sound, if you have to have a mix of like splinters that would be called the evil, that would be a pretty good one for sure.
Yeah, it's bad enough that the people on Canticle prefer being there to Threnody, so yeah.
So it's really bad. Like we would rather be in hell, we'd rather be on Canticle, we just do not want to be by the evil. Like, okay, interesting.
Because like if Odium was wounded, like this says, then maybe some of the investiture leaked onto Threnody in some way. I don't know.
So I had to look up what was said in Sunlit Man because they talk about the evil some. We came from another world, chased by an ancient force known as the evil. It's still there, he said, on your homeworld. I've seen it. Well, the manifestations of it. Wild, unchained investiture come to life with its own alien will, forming mountain-sized figures with impossible, unnerving features and unknowable motivations. Threnody was not a place one visited to relax. Nice. Terrifying.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah. Eldritch horrors beyond my comprehension. Love it.
God, I want to have the Threnody book because Threnody just has the best atmospheric horror, and we didn't even get the mountain-sized eldritch horrors with unknowable motivations. But like that's the cool thing with like investiture like coming to life is that you can get a bit of that like that eldritch unknowable horror aspect in the Cosmere where you're just like, oh yeah, you don't even have a vessel that's human. You're just not human at all, and you're just gonna kill us all. Like, oh, okay, nice.
But the warp here does make me want to know that, like, before the evil was the evil, did we have mountain-sized benevolent chunks of investiture like just roaming around on Trinity? It's like,
okay, yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
it could well be.
Yeah, it does sound like there's at least chunks of investiture that would have been there pre that clash.
And as for Odium getting wounded, I think it makes sense because Mercy showed up, right, to help Ambition out, I guess. So
yeah, Mercy's
for one,
involved
maybe
in this too.
Yeah. For one, maybe Mercy investiture is also involved somehow, and it makes sense that like Odium did not expect another Shard to be there, right? He only expected Ambition and expected an easy fight, but then Mercy swoops in and I don't know, hits him in the back, and that's how he got wounded.
Oh, that's good. I need to see Shardic combat like that on screen. You know, like that just cannot be in the background sometime. Like I need to see a clash like that. I need to see it in the space age. There are fleets of spaceships and also a Shardic clash. That's what I want, dang it. Maybe all of those spaceships turn into the evil or something. I don't care. I don't care, but it's going to be awesome.
That would be cool. I can't really think of a worse combination than Odium, Ambition, and a little bit of Mercy in there. Like, eesh. Yeah, no thanks.
The mercy killing aspect of Mercy, of course.
Yeah.
It's Mercy that that the evil is swallowing up all of the continent and everything and the entire planet, I guess. So
this is
you don't have to suffer anymore. Yeah.
We know we made this planet awful. That's why we need to kill you now. Okay, great. Thanks a lot, guys. Oof. Oh boy.
Alrighty.
Let's do this next one.
Did Adonalsium ever create any avatars? Brandon. I'm not going to raffle this. I'm going to give you an answer. There's the thing on this answer. Some of these things are canon and stuff I've done so far that I may not canonize going forward. The answer is yes. In the original outlines going back to Dragonsteel, the answer is yes. That you would have seen that. Will I do that when I write the actual series? I cannot guarantee. So it's a tentative yes, but it's not canon yet. You know, that would have been really nice. I just finished my Dragonsteel read through, and that's helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some weird stuff in that book, isn't there?
There sure is. It's oh man.
We're gonna. I don't think we've even scheduled recording or started reading that, but I know we will do an episode on Dragonsteel, and this is a very interesting one considering Dragonsteel. I'll just say
we'll have to keep an Avatar watch out when we read Dragonsteel.
Yeah.
Oh, just one?
There's always been some weird stuff that I've never been able to square with canon costume information. I'm like, I have no idea what this is supposed to be. Like, what the hell is going on here? And I guess maybe Adonalsium Avatar is one of those options, I guess.
That was my most recent video, actually. I talked about what I thought was canon, what I can't possibly see being canon anymore, and it is a trip.
It's so weird going to before the turn of the century, Brandon. Oof, I don't like that. Or maybe did he write it in 2001? He may have written it in 2001. It's like either 1999 is 99. Okay, yeah. So before the turn of the century, and just wherever he's like building the Cosmere initially, and is just like, yeah, I got these wacky ideas. Then yeah, they may or may not be canon. Who's even to say? Like, I guess if you're Adonalsium and you're God, like, I mean, maybe you get bored and you want some people to talk to. You know, you gotta create, you gotta make.
And you can't create all the like physically impossible planetary systems on your own. Like you have to spread it out a bit to work a little bit.
Yeah, you gotta make the 10 gas giants and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, all right, this will be fine for what I foresee. And he's chilling in the spiritual realm, obviously, because like if anyone is cool with the spiritual realm, it's probably Adonalsium, right? He's chilling there, and he's really want to talk with some other weird like avatars of myself.
Maybe that's why you couldn't reforge Adonalsium with all the shards together, because there is still an avatar running around.
Maybe that's an Aether. Whoa.
The
Wow.
Aethers are just avatars of Adonalsium who are like insistent that they weren't. Like, I don't know.
No, I swear I was around before my parents had me.
Like maybe just the lie that they tell themselves is just no. We all came to existence at the same time, and Adonalsium's one of us, but he's not all of us.
Yeah.
That almost sort of would make sense if like an avatar's sort of consciousness is not that separate from the entity that created it, right? So they don't really know that they are, like, I don't know, could be some weirdness going if the wild speculation that they are avatars is right.
On the other hand, Brandon here is saying, is it even going to be canonical? I'm not sure, but the Aethers are, around. So I feel like maybe probably not.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Because the Aethers definitely exist, and so That said, he could easily like say, yeah, they were totally Adonalsium avatars. Like that was always the plan. Always the plan.
Yeah. It is an interesting wob, but it really is just a nothing burger, because he's like, I don't know, maybe it's canon. I haven't decided.
I'm gonna give you the answer, but I'm actually gonna give you absolutely nothing, actually. So I like that.
Yeah, at least like it shows that he thinks about there potentially being avatars, right? It's not as much like we don't like it's not a definite no, where he could say, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like Luther. It's pre-canon stuff, and so he can actually talk about that a bit.
Yeah.
I guess it also helps that at the time, like Dragonsteel Prime had come out, so like he can blab about it a little more. Cool. Let's go on to another interesting but also nothing burger wob here. If someone else were to grab a shard, would the god metal change? Brandon, yes. There's a whole bunch of asterisks, okay? That's as far as I can go on that one. Well, gee, thanks. That really illuminates us. Okay, interesting. So that is interesting that the answer is kind of yes, but like there's like conditions and crap. Like
I think we had a WoB before about like what would happen if Kelsia took up Salvation. Let me see if I can find it.
Oh, God. I don't know. Like, it's just interesting, right? Because Harmony has Harmonium. Yeah. You can get Lerasium and Atium now, right? So, and those presumably still work with the same effects that we know and the same magics that we know. So, like...
Yeah, in at the Arcanum Unbound Hoboken sighting in 20...
Oh, God. That's the most cursed... That is literally, listeners... the most cursed audio that we've had, just straight up. So any of this, you have to just realize is so hard to listen to. Yeah,
and at least this one, it's a direct report from someone. So
okay.
It is also paraphrased, but apparently if Kelsia created a metal while holding preservation, it would have acted the same as Lerasium, though over time the properties of it might shift. So that also doesn't tell us anything, but the properties can change, but like as you said, it still does make sense that we still have Lerasium and Atium that do exactly the same thing they did before, as far as we know at least.
So in like Space Age Mistborn, we might see Reassembling that's doing something different than what we get in Rhythm of War, but probably not Wind and Truth.
Sure. Yeah.
it wouldn't be
Yes.
Reassembling,
Yes.
but
God, that's bonkers to think about.
And maybe it's also just more like the magical properties would actually not change. It might just be like, I don't know, the melting temperature changes, I guess. I don't know, because for some weird
Sure.
reason.
Sure.
Like, yeah,
Very plot important, these god metal properties
Yeah.
changing. Yeah, I could definitely see. I guess that makes sense that if the god metal, if you're using a magic system to manipulate this metal, like if it's preservation's power, it's still unlocking the same thing potentially, but the physical properties or what it does when you're not using a magic system, I could see that altering. Like maybe Reassembling does not conduct investiture, but if you used allomancy with it, it's the same. I don't know. Maybe it's easier with Lerasium and Atium, I guess, than Reassembling, because what would that even do with allomancy? I don't know. I don't know, guys. No one knows. I don't think Brandon knows.
I don't think he does either.
Maybe he has like a few that he's like, yeah, Cyberpunk era. It's gotta be. It's gonna be a nugget of this metal. In the Cyberpunk era, a Radiant's gonna come in and be with the underground people, and there's gonna be an Allomancer that eats part of that shard blade, and they're going to get some magical powers or something from the god metal.
maybe it's just like if you make a Fabrial out of Reassembling, over time it attracts or it works best with slightly different types of Spren,
Sure,
and that's
Sure.
all it is.
sure,
Mhm.
yes, it could be just as easy as that. How it changes, well, like how much does the vessel have control over the shard? Always big open question. But I guess with some vessels changing, we will probably see eventually, which I like.
Hope so.
Unless it takes like a million years.
I don't know if Brandon can. I mean, can really any of us truly conceive of a million years? I don't know. Maybe Adonalsium can. But I guess fossils had to get there somehow on some planets, so they needed some
Well-
millions of years for that. I don't know.
Unless Adonalsium is just trolling everyone and like,
He
you have a
could-
long and storied history.
I made these oil deposits for you guys. I made
mean,
it
if you
look
wanna-
just like the geological process. I looked into the spiritual realm. I know what it's gonna do. So I just made
Young
it for you.
Delphus creationists.
I mean, it would be a lot easier to be a creationist in the Cosmere. It's like if you're on Taldane and be like, I mean, I don't even know what's going on with the astronomy here. Like, yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
guess God's doing it. And that's like, yeah, I mean, probably seems like a good theory. Cool. Grace.
Oh, in this one, Brandon says, Stormlight 5 is the end of the first arc of the Stormlight archive, right? I've been saying that since the beginning, since book 1, but then I went and I ended Mistborn, and people are expecting it to end like that. That's not what I mean by the end of the first arc. This is more like an anime arc than it is like the end of Mistborn 1. And I need to start preparing that for people, because one of the things I'm getting from beta readers is, number 1, it's going really well, people are really liking the book. Number 2, they're like, oh, I thought this would be an ending like end of Mistborn 3. No, it's more like the end, as I said, of an anime. The end of the Stormlight is book 10. You are going to get some decent resolutions on things I've been promising for a while, but you're not going to get resolutions on everything because it's not the end.
I think that's an important thing to notice.
Mhm.
I hope it's going to be more conclusive than Lost Metal. a little more.
Yeah.
I wonder, Jason, what did you think of Lost Metal?
I enjoyed Lost Metal.
Okay.
I have a soft spot for Era 2 because it reads like a movie, and I've got a background in videography and film, so I do like it for that reason.
Sure.
But yeah, it ended a little strange, a little less than I'd want. I'd wanted more Southern Continent explanations. I think it could be a cool setup for a Secret History 2 where we get an actual conclusion. Yeah, it was good. Not one of the best.
I think that's a pretty standard take for that book. It's like, I mean, I thought there would be more Southerners, but okay, I guess. Like, I think it will be more conclusive because, like, Mistborn.
On some aspects, yeah, but like I think what Brandon says here makes sense to me. That like it wouldn't feel as final as like Hero of Ages or whatever,
Sure.
because we will have the same characters returning in like another 15 years, or like in word and probably also in real life.
Yeah.
In another couple of years, and also I'm not expecting the book to end particularly on a positive note.
Sure.
Like,
yeah. Gotta have Biodomisham kill everyone. Important.
Yeah. So there will be some downer that then we deal with in the second half, and yeah, that like just like some arcs I want to be finished. Like I don't know, like for instance, Biodomisham, of course, and like the Dead Eyes. I feel like that we have to deal with, but
Yeah,
other
absolutely.
stuff like the bigger mysteries, definitely not as much of an answer there, and I'm fine with that. Right?
Yeah. One of my friends has a little bit of a problem with the Stormlight Archive because he can't possibly see how they can squeeze 5 more books out of it. Because in his mind, Odium, Big Bad, and then this is the Contest of Champions where that ends. I disagree with that take a little bit from my friend here, but it does have to conclude the arc, but also set up the conflict for the next 5.
Of any of the things that I'm concerned with Stormlight Archive, Brandon having some kick-ass set pieces for endings of books in the back half, I'm not worried about that. I think if he knows anything of like since book 1, he's probably like, yep, and then in this book, this crazy thing happens at the end. Like, I think he knows what those things are, right? That like maybe he moves some stuff around, but I'm sure he's like, yeah, book 4, that's when Urithyr wakes up, and then like, yeah, book 7, this is this crazy thing. And I imagine those are so important to his process to know what to build for that I think he wouldn't write a 10-book series if he didn't have some cool stuff happening there, right?
Yeah.
Like we have at least 20 magic systems we still have to deal with.
Point binding! We'll get there eventually. And I mean, I would just say to that friend, there's Ashen and Braze. We literally have 2 other planets here that we could go to. You just get a Windrunner and be like, hey, let's just fly over there, right? Like, like you could just go there. So, like, and I expect that we have to go to Ashen eventually, right? Surely. Like, maybe not Braze. Braze sucks, but, you know.
Only flashbacks on Braze.
We kind of already went there in Rhythm of War.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of notable points of interest in the physical realm there. It doesn't sound
only
like.
habitable on paper. It's in the zone, but like there's nothing living on the surface of that planet.
Yeah. But like we'll get flashbacks there. Like, I mean, we'll definitely get flashbacks to Ashen, right? And figure out what happened there with Herald flashbacks. But like, I think we'll go to modern day Ashen as well. And like the entire thing will be crazy. Like,
we still have the whole Pooley interlude, Sailors on the Infinite Sea. That hasn't had resolution yet.
Grace is on the show. Has got to mention Pooley's interlude here. So, like, there are going to be some crazy things where, like, I'm sure there's some death rattles that are like talking about. Yeah, this is a book 9 death rattle. Like, okay, all right, cool. And interludes that just don't matter now, but matter later. And like Pooley's number 1 on that list. I think even reading Oathbringer, I'm like, okay, so that's like book 8 or maybe book 6. I don't know. Some from a long time ago, a long time in the future.
Unless the epilogue of book 5 is Sailors on the Infinite Sea.
It's just Pooley. Yeah, hell yeah. That'd be awesome. But I don't think we need to worry about Brandon running out of ideas for things to do in a story. Yeah, I think what's much more likely is Brandon's going to have so many ideas he's not going to be able to execute them well. I think that's much more reasonable of a worry, in my opinion. Like kind of like with Lost Metal, right? Where you're so excited after Bands of Warning, like, oh man, I have this whole other aspect, and Brandon's actually like, oh, we're actually just gonna wrap up Trell. I'm like, I mean, yeah, we had to do that, but like, what the hell are you doing with Bands then? Like, okay, interesting. So I feel like that's going to be much more of a concern, that it's going to be overstuffed and not executed well.
Yeah, that's I'm much more concerned about book 10, even if we don't know anything about it yet, than I'm about book 5, not providing enough material as well. Like, there will be too much. I almost certainly there will be a lot of things by the end of book 10 that we will not have satisfactory answers to and that we'll never get. And yeah.
Set up for Space Age.
You'll see some Space Age Rosharans, I guess. Like, and that's an aspect too, right? Like, how even conclusive will Stormlight 10 be if there's going to be a conflict with Roshar and Scadrial later? That is the end of the Cosmere. Like, can we even have an ending that is as kick-ass as Mistborn Era 1? Because, like, it really isn't directly setting up a thing. We're just wrapping up the stories. Whereas this gets to a little bit of that interconnected universe problems where it's like, okay, yeah, these characters will return in the next Marvel movie. Yeah, I'm sure they eventually will, probably, but like, who cares? So
gotta have that end credit scene with somebody who won't show up for like 5 movies or something.
Yeah, but like, obviously the Roshar's main story has to end there, and in, like, I guess Era 5 now, that's going to be weird to say, because that's Space Age now. Maybe we just need to say Space Age is just going to be, this is the Cosmere story now. It's all intersecting, and like, it's not Roshar focused. We've wrapped up all the character arcs and things. There's some setting hooks, but it's more like, how is this going to interact with other places and things? Maybe
it will be interesting to see whether Brandon will even, like, I've always found it a little bit weird if it's the Cosmere story, right? That it would be still a Mistborn book. Like, at what point do you say, okay, this is just not Mistborn anymore? It's everything.
I mean, that's always been a little weird to me, but him, like, I know he said Space Age Mistborn are going to be Stormlight Link books. And so I think we're going to get POVs from all over the hell. But like, from everyone. Yeah, it is going to be interesting to see, because I bet when we get to the end of Stormlight 10, kind of like how Brandon looked at Wheel of Time and was like, okay, I'm not going to do some of those things in that. Like, now that you've written the whole thing, you can learn some lessons. And I think for Stormlight, Brandon will also say, okay, well, there's some lessons to be learned from this as well. That's just a problem with writing such big books. You can't just write them straight through. And just the continuity, it's crazy. And no matter how good your outline is, you're going to have more ideas when you write the thing. And just I hope Brandon can maintain cool endings, because Lost Metal was fine, but it's like, okay. Defiant, I actually thought was a very good ending. So like, he definitely can still end series like really well. And Defiant was a good end of series that led some threads for new adventures, but like, you're mostly completely satisfied. And so I think that's what we can hope for Stormlight 10, where, yep, the character arcs are wrapped up, the main Rosharan plot arcs are set and done, but there's Scadrial's coming to attack us, so there's got to be some stuff happening, like presumably dealing with whatever's going on with the shards on Roshar, and like solving whatever conflict that is, and like the human singer conflict, like things like that, right? Like you have to actually wrap those up.
So Lutheran Telescope, our very own Punny, asked, you dodged my question about Hoid's monologue during the stream. We discussed that a few episodes ago.
Yep, I'll put it in the description and a card for you where you can talk about. Yeah.
But Brandon didn't even let the question be finished. So
yes, this is about the last shard.
Yeah. So let me ask a different one. Is it relevant that Hoid lists 4 concepts together at the end of The Way of Kings? Intellect, artistry, and apparently he didn't let him finish again. Everyone said yes. The follow-up was and it's about the last shard, the wisdom adjacent one. Brandon then answered, you are this close. Stormlight 5 is going to come out and you're not going to be surprised. You're very close. And Pani followed up again. So we have all of Adonalsium named, all 16 shards. And Bren says, yes. That's very nice. Yeah.
That's an end to an end to an era to actually get all 16 shards named. That's crazy. But I mean, he kind of sped run it with Rhythm of War, I guess.
I will be very interested to see what word he has settled on for that concept in the end. I still like prudence a lot, so that's that. I'm now debating whether I want to just do a word search for prudence. Book 5.
Just you instantly get the book and you're just like, all right, control F prudence. You know, Marvin, I really support you in control Fing for a term that you want and immediately doing that. I would never do something like that. I've never done that in Dawn Shard and Rhythm of War. I don't think I did it for Oathbringer. I don't remember. I did do it. I definitely did it for Dawn Shard. I did control F Dawn Shard as soon as I got that.
I will try to restrain myself, and if it's too far in the book, I would say, okay, no, I won't look at it. If this search result is too far long. I'm not like you that I read the ending first or whatever, that I won't do that.
I only read the Rhythm of War epilogue first, okay, when I got that last chunk, and it didn't make sense because I didn't know Terrapinging Ascended, all right? It was fine. It was fine.
Yeah.
It was great reading that in order. That wasn't a problem, right? Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we did sufficient speculation on this one, unless, Jason, you have some speculation on this last shard. I don't know if you know all the history of all the potential words of Brandon of that.
There have been many a wisdom thrown around, for sure, for years.
Yep.
So this is about in line with what I was thinking, kind of a intelligence, thinking man's shard sort of thing.
Intellect, ingenuity, wisdom, prudence is one suggested.
Synonyms, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be in the new era of speculation with the Dawn Shards.
Yes,
so.
where it's all we have all 16. We can start making the charts, right?
Yeah.
That's really where it comes down, where we start okay, we got one Dawn Shard. Let's get these groupings here. And then
it almost feels like he's jingling keys. Okay, you have all of this, but hey, look, Dawn Shards.
And then after that, it's Aethers. Adonalsium avatars. When he writes Dragonsteel, it's oh, actually, yeah, there's these Adonalsium avatars this whole time. That. I guess that's another interesting aspect. Because if he canonizes a new thing in Dragonsteel, and that's the prequel, should we have seen those thousands of years in the future? So you got to be a little careful with that, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, I look forward to looking at everyone's shard categorization charts now that we'll have all 16. And I look forward to everyone's theories on the remaining Dawn Shards. And by remaining, I mean most of them, because we need 3 of them. There's also an Argent Word of Brandon, but it got raffoed. Who cares about that guy? But he went to the Chicago Con and stuff, so that's fun. But just a standard raffo there. But anyway, we got it all done, guys. I think we actually had a better WoB pace than in many of our WoB episodes that we've done, all 6 of them that we did previously. So good job there. And so we hope you enjoyed this. Let's get on over to Who's That Cosmere character?
This character is from Roshar.
Menace, Tien,
Tom,
Raise,
Hoid in drag on a horse.
It's time for Who's That Cosmere character?
All right, listeners, you know how the game is played. You've sent an email to wtcc@17shard.com with 5 clues in the character that those clues correspond to. I read each clue aloud, and after each one, our panelists have the chance to guess who's that Cosmere character. Let's begin. This one was sent in by Kalani. Clue 1. This character is royal.
Ridger.
It is not Ridger.
Damn. Classic Vivenna and Ciri's brother. You have to choose Ridger.
Serini.
It is not Serini.
I was going to say Serini. Royal.
It is not Royal.
That would have been fantastic.
That's good. That's good. I like that. It's good.
Clue 2. This character is cunning.
I'm already like, I'm out. I have no idea. Teravagian.
It is not Teravagian.
Okay. You know, sometimes you just got to do that, right?
Kayain.
It is not Kayain.
Yasna.
It is not Yasna.
Yep. that qualifies for sure.
Clue 3. This character had a romance.
He's not cunning, though. You know what? I'm going to say it anyway. I know it's not the answer, but I'm going to say Jezrien because he did have a romance at some point.
It is not Jezrien.
He's not cunning, but he is royal.
What's the name? Is it okay if I just give you the a clearly identifying description of this character?
You can try. We'll see.
Chris's former fiance, the crime guy on Dayside. I can't remember his name.
It is not Gevelden.
Yeah, that's
Gevelden.
I was
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Whiteside characters, like
Yeah.
names.
Don't worry, maybe you'll remember them with the Whiteside. They'll be much more memorable the fourth time.
Yeah.
I hope so. Man, I don't know. Eole?
It is not Eli.
Classic.
Clue 4. This character is from the time of the Silver Kingdoms.
I mean, Nohadon, I guess?
It is not Nohadon.
God. This really narrows that down a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. He's royal. During Silver Kingdoms.
The king in the top room. Like the
Oh, the Darethil guy?
from the
Yeah.
that Darethil guy, yeah, but not Darethil himself, but like the king
Emperor.
of that island.
It is not that king.
Okay.
Oh, man. Silver Kingdom era characters. That's
I know.
And we've got Nohadon, the easy one out of the way.
I know.
Man, I think I'm going to have to pass. Nothing's coming. Sorry.
All right. The final clue. This character has a blue child.
Not an queen, but what's her name?
Oh, yeah.
From the Moon Story.
Yeah.
Does anyone know the name?
God. I don't remember the name. Is that definitely during the Silver Kingdoms era?
Yeah, because it's a kingdom, right? Like, it's not a turn.
Yeah,
So-
but like... Yeah, I guess. Fine, fair enough. You got me.
What's her name?
Her name is Queen Saw.
Right, yeah.
Saw. Yeah,
Oh, it was hard.
it's hard. Sometimes these are really hard. They're there to
Yeah,
get Ian
just-
usually, so
Mm-hmm.
he's very good at this. All right, that was a good one though.
Yeah.
Uniquely identified. I do like clues where it's like, okay, this really narrows it down, but now I just don't remember who those were. But it's like at least it's specific.
And names, right?
Yeah. Let's get on over to our Who's That Cosmere Character priority queue, where you can be a herald on Patreon for $10 a month or more, I guess, if you want. And you can submit things to our priority queue where we will read these faster, kind of. I know we're really selling it, but you can be a patron. That's cool. And so this one's from Lemerny. Clue 1 is
What?
This character flies.
Sack.
Sack? No.
Yeah.
I like that.
You are
Immediately
not
going
gonna
to
believe.
immediately going to AVR. I like that. That's good.
Man, I wrote that on my second monitor on the sticky note here. I also wrote sock.
Well, it's wrong anyway, so.
All right. Nomad.
Ooh, it's not Nomad. It's good.
I will go with Raina.
It is not Rhina. Good. Clue 2. This character was a criminal.
I like how we all went with different definitions of flies. It's like bird, radiant flight, spaceship.
It's fair. It's fair. Really doesn't narrow it down, really, in Brandon's books.
Yeah.
There's a lot of... He likes flight.
Helsia.
Not Kelsier. That does qualify, for sure, I would say.
The Cinder King.
Ooh, it's not the Cinder King. Yeah, sure. I'll allow it with vehicles. Yeah, sure.
I feel like most of Bridge 4 probably qualifies, right?
I would definitely say
Yeah.
Bridge 4 probably qualifies, yeah.
I will go with Zeth.
It's not Zeth. Clue 3. This character gained power from 3 invested arts. Make that your Bridge 4 guesses. This one narrows it down a lot, but then you have to try and think of anyone.
Does search binding count as one invested art in this context? Is it multiple?
I mean, that is a tricky question with Renarin magics for sure.
Exactly. What was the second clue again, Irish?
They're a criminal.
All right, yeah. This should really narrow it down.
I will guess Wax.
It is not Wax. I like that.
My favorite
I feel like it
kleptomaniac,
might be-
Wayne.
It is Wayne.
No.
Ah!
Let's go.
So sorry, Grace.
I thought Wayne, but I was like, no, I don't know that he flies ever, and I know Wax has.
Yeah. Also, what is, like, they all are on an airship, right? So,
Mm,
Also, Wax has broken some laws. I mean, he's got he goes over the head of the constabulary all the time. So,
yeah.
But Wayne's definitely a criminal.
oh yeah,
I was just thinking who has Allomancy, Ferrocamy, and Teamallergy.
yeah.
Well, at the
I
end,
forgot
yeah.
about the other clues.
Yeah, they ended. Wayne at the end of Lost Metal did have Allomancy, Ferrocamy, and Hemalurgy. I think he wasn't Wayne like a Mistborn. He was Mistborn at the time, right?
a little bit
A
misborn.
little Mistborn, yeah.
I was
Yeah.
thinking Telsin as well. Like, I would have guessed Telsin also because,
Yeah.
so we were all in the same ballpark.
Yeah, because that's the great thing with Scadrial is you're not going to get the argument as to what magic systems what is an invested art. It's like, okay, these are definitely 3 different invested arts. Clue 4 was this character was pierced by metal. And clue 5 was this character died a hero.
Oh.
Nice. Cool. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Jason, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a pleasure to have you and give your thoughts on, these spicy readings and WoBs. Sorry you didn't know about that one WoB before your video.
It's all good. This was so much fun. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. I mean, presumably we're going to get some more readings eventually. I don't know if production-wise we're going to be able to manage a preview series, so we might have an episode or two similar to this, talking about some readings, maybe in less detail, and just do some highlights. But yeah, it's hard to say when the preview chapters are going to be here, but they will be coming eventually. Like, I guess it depends how many chapters they do, but like Rhythm of War is summer. They definitely were going in summer. So
yeah, but I mean, the release is also a little later now. So
yeah, it could be a little later. Yeah, so hard to say. But anyway, you can find us on 17shard.com for all your news, discussion, theories, and fun you could ever want. You can support our Patreon for as little as $1. You can find us on all the social medias. And Jason, why don't you plug your stuff one more time?
Yeah, you can find me on the internet at Jasonian. Again, I make some fun Cosmere-related videos, put a lot of time into the research and editing for them. So
They're good.
I'd love it if you checked them out. Thanks.
They're good. And yeah, we're trying to get some more guests. Anyway, We will see you all next time for something else. I don't know what's going to be next, but something. Maybe there's a June spoiler stream that already happened, and then we'll have 2 more episodes. But I don't know. Who's to say what Brandon's doing after Stormlight? We don't know because it's still May right now. But that, as of recording. But we will see you all next time.
Bye.
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 Ciao.